a question for Subboor regarding evolution and more particularly vestigial organs. This is a question with two dimension. I try to make it in one question.
Sure.
So a recent paper showed how during the embryogenesis, how we see additional muscle developing in the ends of the embryo, and which are supposedly like reptiles' muscle. So the muscles develop and then die. And the paper identified this as a phenomenon, as a reminiscence of reptile muscles, and which is supposedly come from a distant common ancestor of human being. So there is this dimension and another dimension, to make it short, which is like the palmaris longus muscle, in the forearm, which is a slightly different issue because this is not like the appendix or something like that, because this is not present in every human being. This is and whether or not it's present, it has no effect on like the power in your hand or in your forearm. So how do we deal with that? Because I know that you've dealt with this issue in many videos, and barakallahu fik for your work. It helps a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
So yeah, very good question. The thing is, firstly, for the benefit of the viewers, I'm just going to dumb things down a little bit by explaining what is vestigial organs. So in essence, vestigial organs are going to be parts of the body which had a function and no longer have a function, and therefore are vestigial, right? They're just like
appendix.
Yeah, well, they used to say that about the appendix. So it's good you raised the appendix, because now we know the appendix actually has some very important functions, although Darwin said it was vestigial. The first thing I want you to understand, brother, is that common ancestry is not an assumption, is not a hypothesis, is not a theory. It is a unquestioned paradigm, the bedrock of evolutionary theory. So Paul Nelson, I'm not sure if you saw my interviews with him, he points this out. He's a philosopher of biology, that it's not even up for questioning, and there's no scientific evidence which could hypothetically challenge it, because it's just taken as no matter what. I mean, it's like A plus B is equal to C, right? So C is common ancestry. No matter what, it always adds up to C. C is always there. So vestigial organs, from an Islamic perspective, from a creationist perspective, there's nothing wrong with the idea of believing that there were organs which were used, and then over time we lost functions for them. So for example, I was watching a very interesting documentary about these fish who were living they were living in a part of the ocean where obviously they were using their eyes and stuff like this. Then what happened is they actually got trapped near this desert area, in which they got trapped underneath basically they got cut off from natural light, and then they reproduced. And as you know, the human body, it conserves energy, right? And humans, even us, if we stop using something, our body stops putting energy towards that thing, right? So what happened was, over time, and your eyes use up a lot of energy. Now it was pitch dark. These fish basically, they still had the eye sockets, but then the eyes no longer were of any benefit. So therefore, all of the children that they were reproducing, they were basically blind, and using that extra energy, using the eyes is no longer there. So that's vestigial, right? The idea that vestigial is against God's design or anything like that is nonsense. So even if vestigial was actually vestigial, like in the case of the appendix, it turned out that the appendix, it reserves some bacteria, which is useful as a backup. Also, it plays a role in young infants. So there's reasons for the appendix. But even if it was purely vestigial, it still wouldn't mean that it fits within the Darwinian picture, or it was bad design, like they say. But what you have to understand is, because now they have something that, one, either it is truly vestigial, or two, it's a false positive. It may be vestigial according to the best of our knowledge, but it may turn out not to be the case. They will always say, aha, therefore it fits in common ancestry like this. And that's what they've done in the example that you pointed out. Yeah. So I've covered this in a few videos in the past, but the upshot is It doesn't matter what comes their way. Something is functional, they'll say this is designed by natural selection. Something which is non-functional, this is a byproduct of natural selection. Something which was seen as vestigial, but now is seen as functional, they will say natural selection did it that way. And just as a live example for you to ponder on, I'm sure you're aware of the recent controversy about junk DNA. Yeah. Now, initially, Philip Kitcher, who I think you referred to earlier.
No.
Who's referring to Philip Kitcher? Somebody is referring to Philip Kitcher. Anyway, Philip Kitcher, you know, junk DNA, the idea that we have junk, 98% of our DNA is junk. Philip Kitcher said the majority of our DNA is junk and God needs to go back to school. Yeah, Auzubillah. I mean, that's what he was saying. Yeah, that our DNA, majority of it is junk, and therefore it's, you know, what kind of design is this? He used to ridicule this. He's an atheist philosopher. Now, what happened was people like Richard Dawkins and you know, other people like Jerry Coyne and others, they use junk DNA. You know, it's vestigial. Most of our DNA is junk. Only 2% is functional. What kind of design is this? Blah, 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 blah. Even then, I believe we could have formulated an argument to show that actually, no, it's fine. Anyway, the Encyclopedia of DNA Elements, ENCODE, they did a study, they published it. It showed something like 80% of what they consider to be junk is not junk, is actually regulatory genes, right?
Wow.
It actually switches on and off certain things which are related to, you know, diabetes and you know, other sorts of things. So now we found it wasn't junk.
Wow.
It was simply we had no idea how complicated it was.
Wow.
Then in an interview, the former rabbi of the Grand Rabbi, I'm not sure what they call him of the UK. He's a Oxford.
What's his name again?
Jonathan Sachs.
Yes, he's the main guy. He's the top
So
guy.
he's passed away, and now it's another guy in charge. But anyway, this guy is a philosopher from Oxford University. Yeah, he's a really smart guy. He was in a debate with Richard Dawkins. He used this. He said, "Look, you guys were saying this, right?
Yes.
And now it's turned out it's functional." And then Richard,
all in a panel.
yes, that's the one. Yeah. And then what Richard Dawkins says to him is, "Yeah, but of course." We would expect natural selection to get rid of the junk and the DNA would be functional. But that's the exact opposite of what the Darwinists were saying before. So the problem is the paradigm.
Yes.
This is what Kuhn speaks about, yeah?
Right.
The paradigm, it makes you look at every anomaly and reverse engineer it, ad hoc rationalize it, and give it as a confirmation.
Right.
And that's what's happening. So something...
So he just changed his...
He just changed his paradigm.
So from one end, his God goes and he's go back to school. And he was like, yeah, it's all junk.
No, but that Philip Kitcher, but same people.
Right.
Same Darwin.
But he was using the stuff, right?
Same stuff, yeah.
And now he's saying, no, it's actually, well, we expect this anyways.
But this is not as bad. It's not as bad as P.Z. Myers.
Yes, what did he say? Go on.
P.Z. Myers, instead of actually saying what Richard Dawkins said, which, by the way, from their materialistic point of view, I agree with them, that from your materialistic point of view, you can give that answer.
What's the answer?
The answer is that before it was junk, now they say natural selection got rid of the junk. So they try and say, of course, natural selection wouldn't keep 98% of your DNA as junk. How inefficient is that? Natural selection is obviously going to get...
What's he saying?
He challenged...
He's a biologist,
he's an embryologist,
Okay.
So it's not even his field. We're talking about genetics here. Okay. He challenged the entire study. He challenged their definition of functional, and he just started attacking all of the scientists. and ENCODE.
When did he do this?
Just a few years ago.
No,
It's on YouTube. It's called Bad Biology.
No way.
Yeah. So P.Z. Myers just started attacking the scientists, saying how they're doing shoddy science. Now, what's very interesting is
he just attacks anyone.
ENCODE. This is a study that was done.
ENCODE.
ENCODE. Encyclopedia of DNA Elements.
ENCODE.
ENCODE. Yeah. So these people, their study was not funded by some creationist institute. These were top scientists from around the world, top scientists from America. They did not know that them publishing this story is going to make them enter a theological hornet's nest. They were simply just doing science. Now, what's very interesting is when I was doing my master's, my dissertation was actually related to how Darwinism leads to false positives, how it stops research. One of the things which I did, and inshallah, I'm going to put this on my website, subboor.com, my dissertation. I showed how Darwinists were actively stopping DNA being investigated as being functional because they said it's a waste of time. So they were hindering the progress of science. Their assumptions were hindering the progress of science. Now we know about now we know about this stuff about DNA and stuff, the functional stuff and the regulatory function of it. This will help us solve things related to cancer, diabetes, and other conditions. However, what does it go to show you? It shows you Darwinism itself was stopping science.
Wow. Bro, how come we haven't heard this from you before, man?
Yeah.
Or are you saving this for a rainy day or something, brother?
Yeah, I'm gonna publish it on my website.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
This is fantastic, bro.
Allah, by Allah's blessing, alhamdulillah.
SubhanAllah.
My what's it called, professor, whatever his name is, he gave me a very high distinction for this. And when I got this reviewed by an academic, he actually said this is the best thing he's read. Yeah, so it's not because of me, it's alhamdulillah from Allah, but it just goes to show you how Darwinism is a science stopper.
Allahu Akbar.
But regarding the
French Muslims, I don't think you. I mean, you could have got a better answer than that.
I just have a nuances to bring regarding the junk DNA example and the palmaris longus example. Is it not slightly different because the muscle is not present in every human being, and junk DNA is present? Supposedly junk DNA is present in every human being. You know, there is
what's the thing? What's the question?
Yeah. So junk DNA is supposedly universal. This example that he gave is particular.
Which example?
About the muscles and about
the palmaris longus muscle, which is in the forearm.
The thing is, you're right in terms of statistical data, but in terms of the concepts which I described with false positives and that is the same.
But is there no distinction between the explication we can give? Is it relevant to insert the palmaris longus cases by giving the concept with junk DNA?
The thing is, I wouldn't see it as a relevant difference. Yeah. So you're right that junk DNA that's present in everyone. But as the concept, the fact that a vestigial organ, if it's true, it can fit within a theistic paradigm, and also that they, using a materialistic paradigm, will always reverse engineer it. These things are concepts that apply to your example and to the junk DNA example. They are.
We don't need to explain it. It is not relevant.
Yeah, and also something else which I think is very important, my brother. By the way, what's your name?
Merwan. We talk an email for Uyghur research.
So sorry, say that again.
You said on Twitter you've been searching someone for a research project for the Uyghurs. I've applied like 2 weeks ago. That's me.
Yes. You emailed me, I believe.
Yeah. But that's another subject. It's all right.
Yes, no, mashallah, brother. What's it called? Can you just re-email me so your email comes at the top, and then we'll take it from there. Now the thing is, I was just about to say, this is very important. Yeah, everything I'm saying to you on this live stream and everyone watching now, I just want everybody to recognize something. None of this is a scientific argument. What I always try and do, and I learned this from Hamza Sources many years ago when it came to the evolution narrative, is to give philosophical concepts which could be applied to whichever scientific information is coming out. So sometimes what happens is I've given this example of junk DNA, or we've covered this particular example about the muscles. The issue is sometimes people and atheists, sometimes what they do is they bring the new information about vestigial organs and they say, aha, I have something new. But that's irrelevant because the concepts which I'm giving are timeless. They're irrelevant. It's irrelevant if that information came out now or if it came out 20 years ago. Yeah. So I think that's very important because sometimes when I speak, it's a bit scientifically heavy. So it looks like I'm making a scientific argument when I'm not making a scientific argument. Also, the junk DNA example, even if I never had that example, the concept will still be correct. Yeah.
And you think that's relevant despite there is this universal versus particular occurrence?
It wouldn't make a difference because the particular and the universal still fit within the philosophy of biology, and these are arguments from the philosophical point of view.
Okay,
I mean,
so that's not.
these arguments in a way are meta level.
I'm
right?
going to take this part of what you just said and I'm going to put it on my channel, bro.
Oh, inshallah.
I like it.
Good.
But I want to get the quote of what's his name?
Philip Kitcher.
Yeah, no, Philip Kitcher, and if PZ Meyer, bro, man, that's. But you have to publish. I think people would agree with me that you have to publish your dissertation. As quickly and as soon as possible.
Inshallah, definitely.
Bro, that's mind blowing stuff, man.
Yeah.
Very